Excellent.
Yeah, you already got to go to a parade today, I guess.
Yeah, last week Katie and I both went individually, and yeah. So we're celebrating our good fortune of winning another championship in Boston.
Yeah, poor you.
It's good. It's good times here.
Absolutely. So
We only have
this is we got a pretty big group here, and so what I want to try to do is keep everything on track, and I'll just go through a quick roll call, and then we'll start in on the agenda. And I'm going to switch screens over. Now, Jeff, if you want me to switch screens over to you to show the guys in New Zealand your stuff, I can do that too. But otherwise, I'll probably switch it over to Mark.
Okay.
Okay, great. So Jeff is the one talking. You all know Jeff. He's here. Mark Thomas.
Hello. Can you all hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you.
I'm the one with the funny accent.
You sound just right nearby, Mark. So excellent. And then I'm Kevin, and Peter's listening in for posterity's sake. Peter.
I'm here.
And Katie, you're in the conference room there in Cambridge.
Yep. Hello.
Hi. And is Sean there as well?
Sean may be joining us. He was wrapping something else up and maybe coming in.
Okay.
And then,
go ahead. And also Zachary McCaffrey.
He is either on from a different in a different room or will be here shortly too. But Katie is doing the web streaming of 3D, and has been myself, I'm the project manager of the 3D, and Katie has been doing the public facing website. So we're the ones that are doing the bulk of the work that would be related to this. So.
Okay, great. And also Alex, who's chief architect from Nextspace, is here as well. He might be able to answer something if a question comes up. And so let's get right to the introductions. Jeff, why don't you give us a quick overview of City of Cambridge and a little bit about the city, and then I know you gave us a great write-up on the city's 3D GIS work and its mapping work. So I'll give you the audience here for a moment.
Sure. Yeah. So Cambridge, we're right outside of Boston, and it's we're fairly small as far as square miles. We only have 7 square miles, but we're really dense for population. We have probably like close to 110,000 people in the 7 square miles, and it's just a really economically vibrant place right now. Boston in general is the economy's good. There's a lot of building going on, and in Cambridge, it's particularly on the eastern portion of the city is this huge development, and they take down buildings, they put up buildings. Google has a presence here. Facebook's just bringing a whole bunch of people in here. We have the biotech, spending tons and tons of money. The 2 universities that are here, Harvard University and Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT. There's a lot of jobs spawned off of those, particularly from MIT, who owns lots of commercial real estate, and they're taxpayers, and as well as being the educational lead and a lot of technology. So a lot of people want to be around here, and so our population is also pretty diverse, but it's also really savvy when it comes to building and planning and permitting and what's going on in the city. So the 3D program is just a really nice fit. we got into it about 4 or 5 years ago, and we met Kevin right at the beginning of this when Harvard University, their planning and project management office, was involved with 3D, and then MIT facilities planning group was involved with 3D as well. They get a little more into the detail with space management and underground garages, and they have a lot of facilities that are pretty unique. They have their own nuclear power plant right on the campus. They have labs and all kinds of things. But Harvard's probably a little bit more like the type of building using 3D for buildings like we do, although they're starting to go inside. So between those those two other organizations that were doing 3D in the city of Boston, who's always had some kind of 3D going on, but then started jumping into the same technology and and using Kevin's buildings. We have a nice little nucleus of 4 organizations right in within a subway ride away, or if not walking distance for 2 of them for us, that are working on 3D. So we've done some joint training together before, and we get together and collaborate on our projects, and so that's kind of fun that that we have that. And then the city itself is our GIS. I'm the GIS manager. Katie's our I guess web technology specialist is her title, but she does a lot of things. But she's been focusing on public facing websites. We have a strong GIS presence. We have 60 desktop users. We're an Esri shop for the most part. We have more and more people that are putting together web pages with Katie's training. We do in-house training, and we have a full-time person that's in our planning department, and he's involved in the 3D program. His name's Brendan Monroe, although he's not much involved with the web part of it. And so we have some great users there as far as the GIS goes. But the 3D is, as we started bringing this in, the planning department, which we call Community Development Department, or CDD, they've been our partners from the beginning, but it's been slow and we're getting momentum going there. We have one planner in particular, who is our demographics guy and also our technology lead, has helped us, get some, funding together for building the model, and that was and that's how we got the building model built. And then but we were kind of lagging on the staff and getting 3D to them. But over the last year, it's been kind of or not even quite a year. We had some an urban designer who started here, and he was urban designer for the city of Detroit in the Midwest U.S. and he has a upper management role, and he's sort of been our spark plug or our champion over in that department. So that's after we've had some starts and stops on the 3D program. We've always kept the data moving. We're always kept it going. But I really think that there's new life and some staff over there that have been a little bit of obstructionists or roadblocks for us can be bypassed or worked around now. So that's exciting. So now we're looking to get more into the web. This person over in the planning department has wanted to get something out there, so we put our neighborhood maps. It's a benign map that Katie put together of the neighborhoods, but he tied 3D into some of our other web pages. If you like, I can, we can take over and show you a couple of these things, but overall, we're looking to try to expand on what we already have in our for 3D web presence. And one of the things that we're really trying to do is to tie together as much information to these buildings, like we do in 2D or we want to in 2D. We want to be able to select a building and bring up information about the property from the parcel, or information about permits that have been for that building, or information on the project. So that would be like the existing conditions. We also want to be able to look into visualizations of. They're a little hesitant of having proposed projects out there, although I think that's coming. But you gotta walk before you can run. But we have gotten to the point where they said that we could put permitted projects out there, and so we've been working with our 3D consultant. His name's Paul Cody, who's a local guy here that worked at Harvard for 20 years, and now he teaches classes in the couple of colleges around here, but he also does 3D work for us. We're really trying to get this digital submission requirement, it's called. So it would go to when a new project goes to the planning board. They would put in that part of the project that needs to be, they need to give us a 3D model and our specifications, which are, file format and that type of thing. And then, we're also looking to tie other information to it. We're trying to tie, the planning department has a huge amount of interest in energy, and they have a thing called net zero, where they're trying to show, bring down the energy usage. So if we can get information from, let's just say, our assessing or information about energy uses within that building, then maybe we can show buildings that have, that are efficient, show our green buildings, LEED buildings, that type of thing. And then, and one of the harder things that I think from all of this, from what I've seen, is trying to get zoning to show up in 3D. That one, I think being able to break the buildings up into floors, which we really haven't done, that would go a long way towards that. But the zoning person that is in that planning department, community development, I think that he's particularly leery of this. So it'd be great to, we've been talking about different ways of trying to show zoning in there. But anyway, I was interested in what you folks are developing, because you're starting to bring information into the 3D model. It's great that we have a 3D model that that you can scroll around the city and show the buildings. I mean, that's an achievement in itself. But being able to make it intelligent and relate information to the buildings would be the next step. We've tried this a little bit by doing some building energy usage. It's a regulatory thing where people have to submit information if they're a bigger building, or if they're an institutional building like the school or a public housing, and they have to say if they have building, they're submitting, which goes to our U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. So that was the first time that we actually had information that was linked to a building. So what else do I have to say about I mentioned in the email, our program has 3 separate components: the data, getting it on the web, and then the staff use. So we're moving ahead in all 3 of those. And we also want to be able to do some analysis with 3D, but just being able to I think that really the future of this for us is to have a better web presence and bring more information and get people using it, and all other projects will come after that.
Hey, Jeff, that's great. So yeah, there's a lot. I mean, you have a very ambitious plan. The city has quite a few initiatives. One of the things that I've discussed with Mark is a way to bring all the different data sets together in sort of a cohesive manner in 3D. So, this parcel data and the relationship of the parcels to buildings, in terms of a building that may be on a couple of parcels, or vice versa, one parcel that has multiple, buildings on it with separate addresses. And how do you organize that as different data sets, and then bring that together into something that's cohesive and useful in a 3D environment. And so what we want to try to do is talk about the needs of the different departments like assessor, historical, inspections, and CVD, as well as zoning, who's a little bit on the outlier now, but is very critical. And that's what we want to do in terms of showing the Nextspace core visual information server app and how the data that has been available publicly and the buildings that you're using can all be brought together. So I'll bring up Mark now to give you a quick background on Nextspace, and I'll share the screen. And then Mark, we can talk about some of these challenges that the city faces now with their various departments and their various data sources.
All right.
So let me just find your presenter here, and I believe you'll be showing in 2 seconds.
Let me know if we can.
Yeah, we're in. Great.
Okay. Let's see. So let me know when you can see the screen. Can you see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, terrific. So firstly, what you're describing is extraordinarily well aligned with what we're doing. I think there's always some devil in the details, which we certainly would look forward to working with you on. But it sounds like the application was designed for your use, by the way you describe it. I guess first it might be useful just going through. I can show you a couple of things that are done, and then let's dig into and describe some of the architecture and the way things are put together, because I think that'll help explain, and you'll be able to use your own understanding, I guess, of it, rather than just seeing one picture one after another. So what we're looking at here at the moment is a cesium 3D interface. I mean, it's a whole globe. Obviously, and we'll go anywhere in the world. We have the concept of bookmarks, so we're going to go down to Harvard Halls, and what that does by going to that bookmark, and you can save bookmarks and so forth, and go to them, and what that does is that's turned on specific entities for viewing. One of the things that's perhaps a little different, a subtle difference in the way that we talk, perhaps versus some of the GIS approaches, that we come from an aerospace background, developing these solutions for Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and so forth, and we've which are very 3D centric. In fact, our friend Dave Kasich at Boeing was one of the founders of the concept of what's called model-based definition, which is very thing-based. We have a thing and a whole bunch of data about it, and we have lots of different visual representations of that thing. And we've sort of extended that into the whole BIM GIS area to say that we're interested in things. A building is a thing, a floor is a thing, a space is a thing, a light switch is a thing, a pipe is a thing. These are all things that have different characteristics, and they have different potential visual proxies. So we might have a photo of a building, a 3D scan of a building, a 3D CAD model of a building, a virtual reality model of a building, and so on and so forth. And it keeps growing. There'll be multiple point clouds, there'll be multiple different levels of detail of it for different use. But somehow what we've got to do is to manage to relate that these are in fact all just visual proxies of that thing. And that thing will also have links to multiple different data sources in different best of class information systems that businesses and enterprises have, whether it's an ERP system, a GIS system, a maintenance record system, what have you. Land records, cadastral system, so on. And so our goal is to maintain at the base a relationship between things and their visual proxies and their data proxies, and keep all of that mesh hanging together in a real-time basis if possible, or an extract, translate, load process if not possible. And then to deliver that visual and non-visual information into a user interface, to suit a purpose. Am I making sense so far?
Yeah, no. Yeah, you're making sense.
Okay.
We don't go down to the building information level much, but that's but the habit of being able to do like floors now is something that's like, ooh, I can see how that could be useful.
Yes, we just treat the idea of a floor or even a space within a floor, or even a table within a floor as all being related information, and you can build up those relationships yourself. The system, we have a platform to build those relationships and line it up with the way that you like to think and view your world. And so in doing this, so what we're looking at here is Cesium 3D is an example of how we can use a visual front end to collate the visual information that is suited to displaying Collada with numeric and attribute information that may have come from lots of different sources. To bring them all together into a standard view. And so what you may choose a virtual reality front end, for example, in another instance, but that same different interface can feed back to this matrix of information. So just by keeping this single identity node, and we have all sorts of tools to maintain that, or its barcode, just by referring to that in any user interface, 2D, 3D, whatever you like, you can get back to the fundamental matrix of information behind that thing. So what we've got here is two very simple objects. We've just brought in, we turn on the buildings. We can turn on all of the buildings, in the area, and we have multiple representations of buildings. We can hide those and just display the textured ones in the case of, the two Harvard buildings. And so every single object in here, rather than being a massive model, is actually an object in its own right, and it's got information. It's got information about its relationships. So if I click on here, we have a summary of this building. We could change its display name to, say, Memorial Hall. And this data you can put in manually, or it may be something that we add automatically on the upload of the information. We also have the concept of media, so we can drag and drop photos. I can simply drag and drop more photos that get associated with this building. And we can have attachments. These might be legal documents, they might be BIM models, they might be any arbitrary document that you want associated with this building. They can also be links to other document management systems. For example, we have a live link we've set up with HP Trim, which is widely used here for document management. We also have levels of detail management. We might have different versions, photos, high resolution models, and rules about when we display them. So they could be 2D vector, 3D GIS, point clouds, augmented. So these different versions of this hall and visual. We have comments, so we can start a dialogue. We have settings where we can actually change how the location. I can move this object around and shift it, and so forth in here to adjust things. So we can move this entity and object around. I can't, so I'll leave it where it is. But then we also have relationships. So I'm just going to turn off the CyberCity building. And we'll look at the relationships. So now we look at the parcels, so Cambridge parcels, and we're looking at parcels in 3D. So any sort of polygons we can address. We have sub-parcels, we have building footprints and so forth. If we look and see this building is related to this parcel, or this parcel in fact has relationships to two buildings. So by clicking this up, I can go, well, what is this building that's related to? It's related to that building, which in fact is a CyberCity version of that building. So we click on it, we see in the relationships, it's related back to the parcel. And if I click on that parcel information, we're now looking at the data about that parcel as opposed to the building. You see, and I can actually build up those relations. So for example, if I wanted to say, let's take that building there, or in fact we'll hide that when we'll talk about the textured model. If I want to relate that to the parcel that it's sitting on, I can add an existence and I say let's check, or I can select an area to relate to, but I'll just select that parcel, and I'll say what's the, and it tells me what I've selected, and the relationship is that it's inside. So we always have relationships which is contains or inside or is connected upstream, and you can build your own relation. You can have as a friend of, is hated by, or something, whatever you like. These relationships are in their own right searchable and understandable. So we'd say that building is inside that parcel, say. So now if I click on that parcel, it'll tell me that there's a building inside it. And if I have titles, so I can build a rule which will automatically build those relationships based on a spatial relationship, or a foreign common key combination between the data sets. So the data sets can remain independent completely in terms of the data sets and schema, but the relationship can be described in our fundamental platform between, and key between different sets of information. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. So the documents, if there are documents there, are they uploaded somewhere, or is it just is it a link to someplace else, or where does that information live?
Right. So in the case of media or attachments, the examples shown here, these documents are actually uploaded onto our cloud server, which is an AWS server. The ability to upload a link to existing documents is something that was in version 1. We haven't quite finished putting in version 2, but the answer is you can have it either way you like. We just haven't finished the UI for uploading the linked side of it in here for either media or attachments.
Jeff, it's a drag and drop, so you can just drag the document from your desktop into that entity.
Yes. So I've got some media here, for example, we could put into the hall. Just a moment. I think I have some media. So for example, we've clicked on the hall there, and I can just drag some. This is Sever Hall, I believe. So I've got some images here. I just literally drag and drop them in, and sure enough, these are the images that are now available online. You could log in instantly, and you will see those images associated with it. So it's all joined. And if I put,
you can add historical images if you ever wanted to put up a site, and
floor plans,
historical images as you want per building. But also, what Mark was showing a little bit earlier with the LODs is that you can have digital submissions. So you want to show a digital submission for a particular parcel, you click on the parcel, it tells you all the buildings that are sitting there. And one of those entities could be digital submission from certain data or whatever else, and you can then show that. So that allows you to store everything on one site and use it for either, awareness, presentation, or just knowing where your data is, because you can pull this data out, obviously, and bring it somewhere else.
So here, for example, we talked about floors. So in relationship, what I did before was I added a relationship to an existing, entity. Yeah. I could also create new, which is to say, what do I want? What type of entity do I want to add? And we'll talk about how we define entities. Now, I don't know whether I actually have a floor. So I could add a floor in here. And so I need to add a structure for floor. And we can go and do that. And, in a floor, so for example, entity type, we'll come back to this UI. So this is the administrative area. So we go entity types, and we define a floor. And its data schema is, we might want to have, area, and save, and we'll call it numeric, double and close, and we might want to have add number of spaces or rooms, which whatever we can call one, and that's a string. We'll just call that an integer. And what else might you want to store about a floor? Is the occupant. So now we have a data schema for floors. Now, we save that. And then when we go here, in theory, if I refresh, on the buildings, and add a relationship, we'll create a new one. This time we'll create floor. If I've done everything right, it asks us for the area, the rooms, and so forth for each floor. And I could have a title. I should have actually had a title, floor, level 1, level 2. So I'm showing you, how we can manually set up and manage data schemas for any object or entity. But we also have the ability to automatically generate the schema for an object based on the incoming data structure, and also the ability to map schemas from different systems. So we might store what represents a pipe, for example, in multiple different ways. One of our challenges we're doing here with local government is to, around 3 waters, that we have multiple different councils, all that represent pipes in different ways, but they all fundamentally talk about, the 2 endpoints in a pipe and its diameter and its material and when it was last maintained and so forth, and they just have to map that to a common data. So we have all these tools in the background to import data and store this, and the data coming in can be either dynamic or static, so they can be linked to, RESTful interfaces, WFS feeds, SAP. We do that through microservices. So the data itself doesn't have to reside with us. In fact, we encourage it to remain in the systems of truth, around the organization, and to be live linked, so that when I'm touching it, I'm going to see data which might be called floor area, which is mapped through the microservice to area here, number of rooms, and so on. And so I don't know, type in 20,000 square feet, maybe, I don't know. It's got 10 rooms, and the occupant is Mr. Smith. Now that's data added manually. Please enter less on the data and the floor. So, relationship, yeah. So I'm not sure. Save. So, is that making sense so far?
Yeah, sure. It's pretty slick. We haven't really got to the point where we've got any data to put in floors, but I get the concept there where you can, bring stuff in and,
yeah, it's
being able to upload documents and photos is something that we really haven't, done a whole lot with so far.
Yeah. It's the structure is there. When you have the data, you can put it in. If you don't have it, you don't need to put anything there. You don't have to even have floors related to the building initially. The idea is that you can build this up over time. So at the moment we just have media associated with this. So going back to the idea of how things are made up, we'll go back to the admin interface for a moment, and we'll look at this, and we have this concept of dashboard, data sources, and data feeds. We have entities. We'll come back to that. We have entity types. So if we go to entity types, this is where you define the things of interest. Is it a building? Is it a parcel? Is it a title? What is it? So if we go to building, so a building has a data schema, and this is the data schema that we've decided for a building. Now, if I add to this, depending on my log and if I have permissions, I can build up, a bigger data model about that building. And that's what will be displayed when someone clicks on the building. Also, this is where I set up the level of detail categories and the layers that we might choose to, to place buildings on. And then we have the buildings themselves. And this is where we can filter, whether the entity was a pipe or a building or a parcel. We can filter and say, well, let's look at, all of Cambridge footprints, for example. And, we can set up a filter and we'll apply that. And this is, all of the parcels will come up in due course. Here we are. So these are all parcels, and this is all the data that's been brought in from your information about the parcel. If I click on a particular parcel, this tells us the raw data brought in. We can also look at that in terms of its schema for that particular parcel. We can see that everything, a building, a parcel, a type, everything gets a barcode and a unique ID, and that's matched and mapped to the IDs in the remote systems. We can look at the relations that we described. We can look at the levels of detail. There aren't any probably for that. The attachments, the comments, and so forth related to that. So this is, sort of the raw information. We could choose to filter and say, show me all parcels, that have this, attribute of latitude or longitude or, particular description or something. Then we have attachments, layers, relationship types we talked about, where you can define new ones. And then ultimately, we have project views where we set up. And so if we go to, in your case, this was we actually want to be in, if I log up, sorry, I'm logged into a different account. Is that, oh yes, that's EdgyGeo. So, City of Cambridge, there we are. And so in that, this admin interface is where we define the view options. What do we want as the default terrain, the map tiles, and you can actually add more to these lists. We've added our own ones, and I had is required, permission settings, default things and so forth. The menu is where we see, we can edit and add and shuffle them around. A textured building, so when we go to that Cambridge UI, we see textured buildings, Cambridge footprint, and this is the menu builder where you describe what it is that's underneath those. So, for example, Cambridge commercial parking is based on some imported entities, type, and color and style, and when that is adjusted, that's what we see here. So, if we choose to, we can turn off the buildings. We could just say, let's look at the sub-parcels and the building footprints. So that's all the building footprints. Sorry?
We could also have put our own ground plan and terrain underneath this too, or?
Absolutely. Yeah, we merged them. We have the tools that will integrate, your terrain data. So, for example, here, these are standard, imagery layers. But this one here is one that we've built based on local information, both, for. And if I turn it on, we'll see there's not much to show. We have the New Zealand national records don't hold very good, aerial map tiles for your area, but. Obviously, we can choose being satellite, but we can also have City of Cambridge as a set of tiles that you can choose, or and the terrain itself, rather than just being a flat. We can add, we can see Shanghai as another terrain example. So we can just merge in whatever terrain suits you.
Jeff, most of those layers, Jeff, the ones below the Shanghai terrain and the LANZ terrain, and the imagery, the LANZ imagery, was brought in, but the rest is part of the cesium ion license. So it's included in the cesium ion relationship that we have. And a lot of these image layers are pretty similar to what Esri offers, right? There's even an Esri layer in there. I think they have a public layer in there as well.
Yes, they do, yeah.
But Cambridge has their own community maps layer, and they have their own imagery and their own scans for, all types of different terrain resolutions. So, they'll want to bring in all those elements into their hub.
Yeah. And that's our visa. We just need to get the data and work with you to import that as a layer for you that anyone can use. And you can have multiple different menus set up, so you can build every time we're in this portal and we create a new project view. This creates a URL which anyone can log into. You can set up your permissions and so forth for people to look at.
So Jeff, one of the big issues that we were faced with, remember when we were cutting up, remember what we did for Parvenay, the cutting up of the buildings to create separate clickable buildings that were separate footprints, right? So it was like a row house with multiple buildings that are all connected to each other. This tool, we call it Bruce, allows you to, manipulate that data in different ways to make it more understandable and usable in a 3D environment. So that was one of the main things, is how do we overcome some of the inconsistencies we have with separate building models and then separate parcels and separate footprints being designed, and not all of them are really in sync with each other. This sort of allows for you to create a data schema that puts them all in sync.
Yeah, I had a contract that we were trying to split buildings, and it didn't work out so well. It was ambitious, but I was trying to sync up our 2D and 3D.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, it comes down to understanding things at this level. So for us, a 2D floor plan is just another visual proxy of a 3D model. So building the relationship, either indirectly or directly between a floor plan and a 3D model, or splitting a building into rooms, is simply one of managing relationships and data. Perhaps I'll take you to an example in a different place, just for a moment, where I have a little bit more data, with BIM information, which might show that concept. So this is Christchurch in New Zealand. It's not dissimilar actually in size, I guess, to Cambridge, Massachusetts, and it's where there was a lot of earthquakes. There's a lot of rebuild going on. You can see, the construction here. It was quite a sad time when there was the earthquake. But this is using. Yeah, this is where a lot of the we talked about the LIMS data. So there's very accurate terrain data in this area and good photography. But I'll just take you to the Christchurch here. So this is the cathedral. It's kind of the centre of their world in Christchurch. And what I'll do is we'll turn on a few layers here. So I'm going to turn on buildings, and these are 3D scan buildings in this case. So we have variety. So that's the current state of the cathedral, and we can certainly see what it used to look like. But everything, we have the full data there and so forth.
Did that whole end just collapse over on the other?
Yeah, you basically destroyed it. Yeah, I could show you. One of the things we built, I'd have to find it if you're interested. We developed, because we had all the buildings both before and after the earthquake in 3D. We were able to build a fade through of before the earthquake and after the earthquake, and it's quite dramatic. Let's see, I'm not sure if I've got. Yes, sorry, I did the round. If we got time at the end, I'd be happy to show that. And so, in here we've got sort of strategic routes in high traffic areas. These are sort of 2 issues and earthquake-prone buildings. So a lot of analysis about, well, if there's another earthquake, where are the strategic routes for escape? Where are the high traffic zones with a lot of people around? That type of thing. So and then the information themselves on the building, strength and demolish within 7. So the huge discussion about that. It's now in fact going to be rebuilt rather than demolished, because it's such an iconic building. But so we go to this building here, we can see that this is one of the new libraries which has just been commissioned, and there's so a lot of the media and the photos are really just renderings of the proposal. It's not, but now it's actually finished. And one of the attachments, for example, was the full BIM model. So when I click on that, I can bring up and go into, because we're maintaining the relationship between, the geospatial representation of this building, and the. Actually, see, I brought that in, did I? At the download button. I think it's coming down. The geospatial version of this building and the BIM model, I can actually look at that, and we just, here it is. So now that I click on it, we use, in fact, you can use standard BIM viewers. I downloaded it twice, of course. Because standard BIM viewers, can be used, but this is the viewer that we actually developed for Boeing and the aerospace industry. In fact, we were using it. That business was acquired by SAP, and this is a free viewer. But there are many other viewers you use. This one's interesting in the sense that it's highly detailed. We can, go in and it takes a 600 megabyte BIM model and reduces it to something closer to about 25 megabytes. But it carries, data down to this level of a light switch, the full HVAC, the desk. So we can maintain the relationships between, any level of data. I mean, we can cross-section this, building, and, and it's all just because of the nature of the tools and techniques we have to maintain. So our view is that, at some point, it doesn't make sense to show that light switch in the context of the whole of Cambridge, for example, or the whole of Christchurch, but it probably is useful to be able to show spaces within floors, like show me every hairdresser in Cambridge, and then they're going to be part of a building, or especially in high-rise cities, that they can be in, all over the place. So there's an advantage in showing a space relative to others, but after that, might as well pop out into an appropriate viewer, but maintain that relationship.
Yeah, we're focused on a couple of high development areas. So at one point I wanted to have the really good detail for every building. Then I realized that we just need to update as we can, and so. But this is a great use of this earthquake thing. It's nice. It's good to see a different use case and information around it.
Yes, and you sort of design this user interface, to suit. You can add, for example, your energy rating, your solar rating. You can see how quickly we can add that to the standard building schema, and then put that information in. We've now stored it, or information about any particular aspect that we care about for a building. And when I have the full detailed BIM model, I simply drag and drop it to create that relationship. And this is a web front end, so there's nothing to download and install. Anyone can use it anywhere, anytime.
So Jeff, this also applies to, remember we were, earlier when we were talking about Baseform and the water networks.
Oh, yeah,
This software can do all that too. In terms of bringing the data in and managing it and storing it and viewing it, it doesn't have the kind of that Baseform interface where they had all these separate sections and there was a whole piece of software written around it. But you can bring in utility data if you decide to build some utility 3D maps and manage that content. And the nice thing is now, it's available, it's easy to find, it'll be something that you can download or use, and you can see that the software can apply to all the different departments for 3D, so any department can bring 3D in and use it for their own particular, use and application, be it more of the larger mapping elements or more specific infrastructure, intelligence and infrastructure storage and analysis, and asset management type of work that, other departments do.
Yeah, Public Works may be interested in like that. Our water department, they're pretty backwards thinking. They did not want to have anything to do with 3D when it was brought up. So I was like, well, okay, well they're old school, and but Public Works, they do sewer and stormwater. So and we also do have an electrical department that's we're starting to map city fiber and stuff like that. So I think.
And one of the things, Jeff, we're encouraging people to think about is like don't think necessarily about 2D or 3D. Just think about a complete picture. If they want the 2D map, here it is. You just lock this thing to 2D and turn on the, you simply view whatever makes sense for a particular job, but it's about completeness of information. And if you restrict the solutions to only 2D maps, then that's all you'll ever be able to do for any aspect. But when you're going to consolidate and amalgamate data, gosh, it's useful to put 3D in and use it if you want to, and if you don't, turn it off. That's fine. Just shut off a dimension.
Yeah, and even like maintenance reports for water lines and things like that are pretty, I mean, it's a pretty easy sale to show this to those departments and say, hey, you can do that. You can do your asset management visualization here and store all your asset information here. That they may not want to do it because water departments have their own mentality and the way they want to do things, but at least you can show that, hey, you can do it in 3D. It's not, it's not impossible. It's not a pipe dream, so to speak. It's reality.
Yeah, this one here actually might be kind of interesting. This is an example. If I think I'll have to navigate there. This is a project to build a large swimming aquatic centre. In here, I think I remember it's down in here, and I should build a bookmark for it. So I'm just going to call it Kiwi2. So I've got a bookmark. So if I start turning on the 3 water information, and we'll turn on the off the ground occlusion. So here's the 3 waters data from around the city, for a new project. And if we turn on the foundations, structural, for this complete BIM model of what is a new aquatic park going in into the area. So we can incorporate the full BIM model into the structure, and turn electrical, stormwater network, wastewater, internal, and internally the outside view. And so this is sort of linking. We can see how a new building relates to both the vertical and the horizontal infrastructure within a project area. And these are all obviously, there are pipe material, pipe internal diameter, pipe length, installed date, status of asset, data repair, and so on. So.
Yeah, I think when you put it all together, they may, like anything, that I think that people have to see it, see a demo of their own data before just talking about it,
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I think these are what we were just looking at. Were pumps and the facility itself. The nice thing is we can sort of work under the radar and put together projects internally. Katie and you can organize internal projects, and then when you're ready, you can call up, the facilities people and say, hey, I want to show you something, right? And this is what we can do now in 3D now with all of our magic. So it gives you the ability to really impress all the other agencies and get more buy-in for it, because they can have very specific, needs met, right? Where right now the only, Autodesk isn't going to provide this for them. Really Esri isn't either. So there's really nobody that can kind of build that bridge between the BIM and the maps the way that this product does. So it just gives you a little bit more leverage out there when you're talking to the other agencies and talking about real 3D capabilities.
Yeah. No, this is great. This looks really nice. I mean, I think, being able to integrate data like this is something that, it's what we're hoping in the direction we're hoping to head. So.
Yeah.
I think this kind of stuff, MIT is into, right? Like the facility. And this is also a Parvane. I just heard from her today, and she's doing a whole bunch of building interiors. Did she tell you about that?
Yeah, I know. We're going to get together, but I know she's been working on that. That was the next thing that they were trying to do.
Yeah. So she's really into that. She's like really excited, and it's looking really good. At least the data part is looking good. So
Yeah.
so it's good. So any questions that you might have? I mean, we covered quite a bit, but there's a lot more to this. Obviously, there's a lot of other features that, like there's a drag and drop tool if you want to pull data out of it. Not just bring data in, but to actually pull it out. There's other capabilities that are, kind of under development. We're building this for cities, for commercial real estate, property management, and for for smart cities, commercial real estate, property management, and for architects. But they all have different needs. The architect just want to find the data and download it. Basically, they don't want to do anything inside of the software. They have Blender and they have their own apps that they build their own content for. But what they want is they want to be able to access all the massing models, that they call the CyberCity 3D geometry massing models. They're really geometry models, not massing models. But so that's their need, is really just easy upload and download and finding data. The real estate is totally different. Their needs are, putting comparative lease rates inside of building information and featuring their buildings and then doing presentations. And the cities have their own needs that are just totally their own needs, right? With what you're trying to do in terms of building up the data, but then making it useful. So one of the things I wanted to ask, there's a lot of public facing with the city of Cambridge, and they've done a really great job. Katie has been overseeing that to create 3D maps that are on the ArcGIS Online platform. And I was just, can we create data here, Mark, and then export it out and put it into an ArcGIS map if we want for a public-facing site? Or is it easier to just build it inside of here and make it a public-facing site from here and just strict use and make it a lot cleaner?
You can do both. I mean, obviously, if the moment that you export it out and you're doing a translate, you're going to lose all the links, to the data effectively. But that's okay if that's what you do. But yeah, there's an opportunity. You can simply build your customer-facing environment here, and all this is customizable in terms of what logos go here and what summary of information goes here. So this is a generic sort of look at what happens, but you could just as easily build to the requirement for public facing if you wish, or simply build something for Esri if needed. Either way.
So Jeff, who's the audience for the public facing sites right now, and who are you building it for?
Well, I mean, there's people that are focused on things that are done by community development, but we're also, there's a lot of one of the big things in Cambridge is the tree canopy, and Katie did a map of like solar rating for trees, and so I don't think we have some statistics on who's hitting these sites or how often they're hitting, but they're getting more popular. We're surprised by sometimes where we'll see something on Twitter. We'll see a tweet from like the fire department using our stuff, and we're like, oh, that's public safety someplace we haven't really spent a lot of time with, but we plan to at some point. I think that probably the focus is planning, I would say, right now. But there's also energy, and I think that that's something that people will use. We're trying to get these themes out there that we can integrate with different web pages through the city. So we the neighborhood map was the first one. I think the next step would be something maybe to do with energy.
And also, on the digital submission program, are you looking to make that a full 3D interactive handshake, or do they submit the image to Katie, and then Katie, you upload it? How do you guys envision that working?
Oh, we're not there yet, but I mean, well, basically, we just want developers to have to submit a file to us in the form. We didn't want the full BIM. We want something like this, the shell of the building, and in a format that we can handle. So they want to do it on like a voluntary basis to start, and so that's okay, because there's a lot of architects are really motivated to work with the city and do what we ask, and so. But I think that we just want to get it into the planning board regs so that people can put some money aside or hours aside to do that. I'm not sure. It's still. We're still navigating the political part of this, and within the planning group. But we're getting there. As I said, we have a new person that he hasn't even been here a year yet, and he's given us a lot of hope and help trying to get the thing moving. So, eventually, I see it as that there will come a day where somebody from the public's going to say, why don't we have more proposed stuff on 3D, or why don't we have this on 3D, or the planning board will be asking you. I think we're very close to that happening, but it's going to come from the public or from somebody else. So it's coming, but we need to update our data. We were woefully behind because of this flyover that went really badly for us and still going badly. Our 2D flyover, and so that's why we're having to have the buildings to be updated. And I think that I've been kind of backed off on promoting it a lot until we update our buildings from you, which we hope to get done in the next few months. So, but we're still trying to develop something along these lines that we can bring data in, so we can use, that once we update our buildings, we'll be able to. Each building has a unique ID. And that building ID is tied to the parcel and also to the address of the address that's within that building. So there's a lot of things that you can join up from that.
So you see how that would work and just fit into this and join together.
Yeah, no, I can, definitely. I think that, it's nice being able to bring in, photos and documents and, attachments and stuff like that. That's something that that we want to do. I'd like to maybe, I wouldn't mind having, being able to play around with this on my own, maybe able to log in and just try an area and show it to somebody over in planning. Just because I think that they, just the proof of concept of being able to tie information to it is something that, everybody that's using the 3D map is now kind of moving around 3D and learning how to use the controls but right now they're not getting, and there's not a lot of information. We have a few things that have information, but it's it's not quite being used in the capacity that it can be. For all the effort we've put together of building the buildings. Even though they're a little out of date, they're still pretty good,
Yeah, and Jeff, you can, use like these textured buildings to sort of add flavor or add more content, another layer, another level of detail. A lot of these are available on the warehouse, and we have a license for that, so you can use it all license free. And because it might be beneficial to have like different views of a building, right? Not only the pictures and even video content, but the actual, LOD with textures, without, and then even you can add the footprint as well, so you get like multiple levels of detail.
Yeah, we want to be able to get the some textured buildings in there. We want to get the bridges done. One of the nice things that, with what we're using with the Esri tools is that we can render some other features that are not quite realistic, but they add to the scene, like the trees or posts or other things. So we haven't done much there. We've done trees, but
well, for us, the architects, they want the highways, right? That's what they want from us. SOM and the others, they have a heck of a time modeling the freeways. when they're doing their scenes. And I can show you what we did. We sort of built out a large piece of the LA freeway. Mark's turning it on now for SOM. And it was, part of this deliverable that we're preparing for them, where we have like the whole LA freeway modeled in 3D. That's Culver City. And then we've got then we got the LA freeway. And so it does add a lot of understanding to how the city is laid out when you start to get the freeway model in there as well. So it looks great. And that's to tile. That's hard to upload and download because it's hard to put that into the tiling system.
Yeah. It's and also to your point, the ability to view trees or point cloud scans, it's all part of this system. You can add any, geometry, and that can all be automated. So if you have, for example, a database of trees, their types, then things that could be, done, to build a generic, tree. We've even done for one presentation, swapped out the trees automatically between seasons where the leaves fall off. So there's no end of capability on a graphic side of what can be done, different rendering styles and objects. To us, they're just all different visual levels of detail or visual proxies, as we talked about, to be served up based on whatever rule is needed.
So there was a couple other items on this agenda that, I don't know if we need to spend, a ton of time on it, but there was like importing data and different entity types, stuff like that. But, we are interested, we don't know cesium a whole lot. We dabbled with some sites there a while ago, but that was probably much earlier version. So,
there's nothing really that you need to know about cesium at all. In fact, unless you want to go in and sort of program over the top of this, which you can do, but you don't need to know anything about cesium. It's really, two things. There's this, admin interface, which is, where we have entities. We talked before, you define up front, what one of these entity types is, or you bring in some data which we'll describe. So for example, with entities, I can go import, and then we drag and drop KML or CSV files, and that's growing to include, GeoJSON, GeoDatabase, and so forth as well. But generally find a workflow where you go to QGIS if need be, if you have something other than a pure KML or CSV, and that you then to save out, the data, properly data structured KML. It comes in here. Let's see if I might have an example file we can just do that with. I've looked at something of yours, Cambridge. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at this on the other. Traffic, buildings, perfect. Commercial parking, for example. I won't go all the way. We'll just pop it in there. It's something small. So with the file, you just drag and drop here. It uploads. We select the information, and we can either map it to an existing one, or create a new entity type based on that schema. So I think we called it Cambridge parking building. I think it was traffic, commercial parking. I think that's what it was, wasn't it?
You can tell we're on the cloud. We got all that data in there.
Yeah. And so this just creates a mapping schema between the data coming in and the data that it's mapping to, and we can, add this and we can also, change, and that creates the data in the system, and then we can apply the mapping, import it, and then it's done. I won't actually bring it because we'd be overwriting what we've got, but that's the process of bringing in data, and this is where the schema is created. Or if we go back to a new entity type, it's going to create one. We call it, give it a name, and it's created an entity type, which is commercial parking or parking. You could call it a type to describe it. So if we go to entity types, we have a look at any of these schemas that we've got. They'll all be based on, something. So, commercial parking, we select it, we have a look at the data schema, and we can add and subtract to that. And that's all the information that you're storing about parking, and that comes in from the static KML file. As we add the dynamic information, we simply are linking to a live feed, a WFS feed or a RESTful interface, one of these formats. So the data itself is just a real-time presentation of this information. We can rename what things are called in terms of the display on our side. So that's the approach of bringing data in at a 2D, sort of a data level, and that will create pipes and polygons and all your traditional 2D sort of GIS type stuff. When we want to bring in 3D things, we can either do it automatically or manually. There's the ability to import and put 3D building sets in automatically, or we can put them in manually. So if I go here, we could drag and drop. I'll find on another screen an example object, and we'll put in I'll put in something.
We would probably be more interested in linking to the live data as opposed to uploading, especially with our 2D layers, because we have most of those already published.
Yes, that doesn't surprise me. It's what we encourage. I think that's the best way to do it. Yeah. So I'll grab a piece of information through the city data.
If you have any questions, fire away.
Yeah, I was also wondering, because you said that you could upload documents and pictures, but if you already have some of that content elsewhere on the web, can you just link to them?
Yes, you can.
Like the URL?
As soon as we finish our drag and drop interface, at the moment we could do that in version 1, but currently our drag and drop interface is only doing an upload at the moment for media and attachments. The addition of adding the links, we've got another few days work to just finish that link attachment off, but the answer is fundamentally yes, you can. Okay. And we have whole systems where you can link not just to arbitrary HTML links, but very specifically through keys to external document management, as I say, like HP trim and so forth, or there are other ones.
So you just want a new tab to pop up with the document link that represents the document?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was just thinking of it with our property database, where each one of the properties in the city has its own web page with tons of information. And if you could link to that, or
yes, we can.
I'll pull the data in. I'm not sure, but rather than uploading documents or uploading data that's already out there, we can just link to it instead.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes, we do that. We just got to finish off a little bit of UI for you to do that, but yeah, designed to do that. I was just showing the process of manually what it takes to put in a building. Literally, we just get it. It's in this new format called GLB, which we convert to, and then you choose what type of entity it is, and 3ds and what level of detail, and we'll put it on these layers for the moment, and we'll put it in the map center. So I'm actually creating a building from Phoenix, Arizona, and if I don't have that stored in the model, we can just put it anywhere we like. So we're going to add new entities, and it uploads that, and we'll edit on the map, and there it is. So we have a new building center here, which we position. And you can type in exact lat longs and all sorts of things if you wish, but that's just a manual process. Close, and now we refresh, and as soon as we turn on textured buildings, that building should appear as a new textured building in the scene. And sure enough, there it is.
There you go, Jeff. You got a new Saudi Arabian-owned Trump Tower.
Yeah.
Quick, delete it.
and as you said, it's already created a proper database record with all the information about it. We could start splitting up the forms adding media, photos related, adjust its position. We didn't get it right in the first place, and so on.
So Jeff, some of the features that I thought Jeff at some point would be interested in exploring, because he likes to bring in data and bring out data, and he's really, I'm talking about, now I just lost his name, Paul, right? That he's into doing, right? Managing 3D data, SketchUp files and stuff like that.
No, he's created some new processes for us to at least just ponder and decide if we want to do it or not. It's one of the things. But yes, bringing data in and out. I mean, he does a lot of new buildings in SketchUp and brings those in. So we, in between having buildings built by Kevin, we try to get some of the newer buildings in there. So that's something that is definitely important to us. I think we're finding that there's just a focal point on just a couple of certain areas of buildings, and that's where we get our most audiences in these areas, where it's exciting and change is happening, but then again, we see something citywide like the solar rating for trees, and then something will come up like, I think we start working on public safety. We may find other areas, so having the whole city model is important to us, but things like this would be, just for one particular area.
Yeah, I think resiliency, energy, those kind of things always seem to resonate really well in 3D, because you can't really do a flood scenario unless you have a terrain and you have 3D buildings. It just doesn't work. You can't do it in 2D. It doesn't look as good. And with energy, it's great to look at energy consumption with different buildings and relate that, and look at the grid and look at solar roofs. All that kind of stuff really lends itself well to 3D, but it's a lot of customized work. I've seen a lot of like solar maps being created in the past. I know Boston, I think, created one. Maybe LA County, I think, created one. I think even MIT had one, right, a while back. So you could go into the solar space and do stuff in solar for sure. Once you have the tree data, you've got all the roofs measured, and then what you need then is the azimuth and the exposure that the rooftops have for solar, and you can look at potential.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe what we should try to do is get a couple of logins for you and Katie and whoever else, and we can kind of coach you guys. And we've already got your buildings loaded in it. We got a bunch of your data. You saw this data we already have. So I think you ought to just bang on it and be sort of a early user group, maybe even define a project, and get us to a point where we're to like a minimum viable product, right? Because that's where we're at right now. We're counting the days to get the product to market. So getting your feedback would be hugely beneficial to us, and also probably you guys, because I think this is going to solve a lot of your 3D goals now. That we've been struggling over what to do with cesium for 4 years now, and now we finally, this company out of New Zealand makes the app that actually makes it all sing. So
yeah, let's play around. This will be something that we spend a little time at. If we could get a couple, we could get logins for Katie and myself. Katie's going to be out for a couple weeks. One of them's going to be out and about your way, Kevin. She's going to be at the Geo Design Conference in Redlands there.
Yeah, that should be no problem. And then what I'd suggest, Jeff, is that I'll get the login sorted out and certainly have a play around. But what would be really good is to as soon as possible to sort of write down a set of like, hey, could we do this, and how would we go about achieving A, B, C, D, and then I can work with you both just to go through how that is achieved and how we would do that and what's possible and what's not possible, with a very specific goal in mind. It's always a useful way to look at it rather than just sort of scratching at the edges without a specific goal.
Sure, yeah, we can do that. I mean, definitely. We have a fair amount of experience now, getting stuff on the web, and we know the limitations of what we have now, and then and then our hopes and dreams, and somewhere in between is what we can actually do,
Yeah, and that'd be great, because I mean the email you sent was really, really helpful, and to set up some goals. So, well, okay, let's within a constraint of this, and this, let's see what it takes to achieve this particular result, and we'll go at it.
One of the things that we didn't do such a great job, I probably should have done a scroll around our 3D website, but we have a data download page, and we put that out there so people could download the model. And we broke it up into tiles because it was primarily in SketchUp, and they couldn't do the whole city in SketchUp. But the one thing that we found out was that before we had the download page, we used to talk to a lot of the architects. They'd call me up and they'd ask for the data. Then we'd have a conversation, or at least an email conversation. And now we don't. Now we just, people download, and we once in a while they'll come up in a project that we'll see online or something. But it's like we lost, knowing, we think we know how people use them. I mean, just the architects are using them, but we don't know if people are, how they're using them beyond. Just traditionally, bringing them into their 3D software that they're using. So,
that's interesting. Certainly, one of the goals for this is, I'll just bring this up because we're sort of working on it. It is to help architects create bulk and location massing reports and studies. So,
hey Mark, we've got their screen on right now, their 3D screen.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
And so, Katie, I mean, do you want to show us real quick? I know I was supposed to bring your screen on earlier, and I just overlooked it, and then we got caught up in things. So this just to show you what they've created so far in 3D.
Yeah. So let me, so when we created this 3D page, I went through and I looked at, and this was, I don't know, 3 years ago now, right? And so Katie's just running out to get it. I think she's getting a power cable before we lose power. We went through and it was like I didn't find anywhere that because I'm a GIS department, so I was like, is anybody talking about 3D in the municipal setting that has a page dedicated to 3D? And we found nobody did. So there was download pages like in Toronto, Canada, and there was some talk about 3D in different cities, but so we created this page. Since then, Boston's created a page that's fairly similar because we also share a it's getting close.
I know, I'm here. I got
it. Well, we haven't lost power. Yeah, that was quick. Leak and get over it. Anyway, so we created this page. So on this page we have our interactive. Well, go to the 3D. This is our GIS overall GIS page, but we have a 3D page. So we have our 3D models on here. So we're using ESRI. This is all through on there. They had a pretty convoluted way that at the beginning of trying to get things up and streaming, and they wanted us to install giant software packages to be able to do it from our end, but they've sorted out some of it where we can go use ArcGIS Online and use our account up there. And it has some limitations and doesn't stream super fast, but as you can see, it takes a little bit to render. But then again, we're bringing through the whole city on here. Cesium was much faster even back 3 years ago. That things were streaming faster on Cesium. Sometimes, depending on how it was put together. So these are trees that Katie's put in there because we have another page that has where we use raster analysis to come up. Katie did this, so I can't say I did it, for each tree, because our public works department was asking us for information about, how much shade from other buildings is hitting the trees. What they're looking to do is to have a planting plan and for different species of trees that they, some trees have more sun than others. Some trees have, shade from buildings. Sometimes they have shade from neighboring trees. And so this was pretty good, where there's actually information in these trees, even though they're just drawn trees. That the heights are came from LiDAR, and the actual shading came from the value that was given to them. So and you can see the different shade here, different times of day. So, and they just asked us to rerun this, so they are going to be using this for the upcoming planting season. So. So that was a win for the 3D program. This is something that, that was fairly technical and was used by, one of our departments. The city arborist was interested into it, and then they have it, all of their street trees are in a, asset management system that is, linked, to the GIS system. So,
is every species listed too?
What's that?
The tree species, is it listed as well?
And not here, but elsewhere. So they have a detailed inventory of every species. So I think that they cross-reference this one, but that would be nice to have.
Which ones are deciduous and which ones are, at least how things happen in the wintertime if they lose all their leaves.
Yeah, they're almost all deciduous trees here. We don't have at least from the plantings, they're not planting any, street trees that are, pine trees or anything like that. And, it's like, there's not as many up here, just 100 miles north of us are not even, there's a lot of coniferous trees, but not so much here. This map, this neighborhood viewer map, was the one that I would mention that our newest champion over at the planning department had asked us to put this neighborhood map together, and it's kind of it's just the Cambridge is broken down into I think 13 distinct neighborhoods. 13? Is that what it is? I think it is. And so they and although this map is not real detailed, the fact that they let us put some 3D links into their 2D map viewers and promoted it within, and that just happened, a month ago. So that was like the first time that's happened. That and then and it kind of spread. It was actually someone from the city manager's office picked up on it and promoted it in a newsletter, and the fire department, as I mentioned before, was like, hey, this would be would be great for what was their tweet about? Was it just
they were thinking about using it just to highlight some of their fire routes, where they send the truck if there's an emergency.
So we're getting these small wins, but they're adding up. We had one from our health department before where they had a smoke-fired, I don't know, wood-fired pizza or something, and the smoke was billowing up into a tall building, and they used it at a hearing to show that the kind of just screenshots, but it was one of our earlier wins, and then the health department said, yeah, we could use this. So we're and we haven't even really gone to public the police department yet. So anyway, so we have we do have these web maps. As I said, I don't know if we've ever done any web analytics on how much they're used or not, but
I just set up some Google Analytics tracking.
Oh, good.
Because ArcGIS Online does a basic usage count, but it doesn't show you the difference between internal versus external, and it also doesn't show you unique users. So you can't tell if one person's viewed it 100 times or if 100 different people have viewed it once.
Yeah.
So we're trying to integrate some Google Analytics into this. I put it on the neighborhood one, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and then we've also embedded the 3D. One of our traffic department. This is this Vision Zero program where they're trying to reduce traffic deaths or to zero by a certain year. And so this is again since we're sort of edge-based, these are they're called story maps, but they're their maps. Katie runs this program, the Story Map program. It's been hugely successful, and so we a little bit slow loading.
I think because it almost died, it's like trying to live its life still, but having a hard time.
So somewhere in this Story Map is down a little bit. There's actually a 3D map embedded in here, and so we'll see what we can get down there. But these story maps are created by our staff users, and they saw the value of trying to get the 3D in there. So that was good. And this thing is struggling though.
My fan. Can you guys hear the fan on my computer?
Yeah, it's asking you why it has to run the stairs 100 straight times.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so I think it's an older the Surface. That one, that's a version 2, so whatever. So anyway, so we do have a web presence out there, and then we also have our data, so you can download our data. So this is something that we set up where you can, we have a little description about how you can get data, and then this was our map that was done, our leaflet map. But if you click on it, it brings up a kind of a series of different things. You can download the building model and SketchUp or Collada or SketchUp. The ground plan, our base map ground plan, a couple different ways, and then our terrain, which is a Collada file. We're not very hilly here, but we're really, trying to get more detailed terrain from this last flyover. Who knows what's going to come out good because it hasn't worked out too well. But then so there's all kinds of things that you can download. Plus we have data pages on each individual type of format that we've had, and so we do have some analytics on this. We see that there's lots and lots of activity. People are downloading. It looks like there's a ton of downloads because people download all the tiles, but we do know that the area called Kendall Square, which is down in the tile G5 and F5, those are the big areas. That's also where MIT is. So those areas over there, and then and then on the page we just have some descriptions about how the 3D program and so it's it's a start, and we're hoping that we can I even know that all of our web content right now is the Esri one. That's because that's just what we have right now, but we're looking to try to expand on this and have more themes and I want more information. So we do have a site. It's we're looking to update. This is called My Cambridge, and it's I also maintain the master address dashboard. So if I type an address in here, so Katie's going to put in, this is the building that we're in, 831 Mass Ave. It will bring up all this information about the building, and some of it will, we don't even have a link. Well, I guess we do now for the neighborhood, but we don't have a link to 3D in here, but we have information about trash pickup and street sweeping, and I'd like to, I'm trying to tie more information together. You see, we don't have permits, we don't have, different things other things that are going on. So we're trying to revamp this, and we'd like the 3D map to link back to this, and then have a link in here to go to 3D. Overall, I'm trying to get people to get used to going into the maps in 3D and kind of expect it. It's sort of like when I've been here about 17 years, and when I started, we used to have all these paper PDF maps, static maps, and then at one point people were like, this map needs to be, not only online, but it needs to be, work on a mobile phone. So that was, we start, and I think that made the one guy that does most of the paper maps a little bit sad, but that's what they wanted to see. They were looking at this data. So I want people, when I start hearing those, like, oh, I want this map in 3D, then I'll know that's a good thing. But I think that 3D is just another perspective that people are used to looking at, and I think that if I can get that 2D data, like you're showing, into the 3D map, and people are using it usefully, and it's not killing their machines or anything, then we can, you know, and then it's just going to keep growing and be expected.
But, no, thanks for that, Joe. And interesting enough, I have used your 3D download. I did download a lot of stuff, and we put some of the buildings in through that, and it's in fact, if I share my screen, I'll show you a couple of things we've been doing, which I think align with what you've been talking about there, Dave.
Okay, yeah, we're done. That's not our building, by the way. It's across the street. That's Google Street View, so that's the senior center.
Okay.
We can't control what they.
So let me know when you see the screen.
Yeah, we see it.
Okay, so this is actually Christchurch as it existed in 2010. This is the one I was talking about before. So, and then we go through and we slide, and this was Christchurch just after the earthquake.
Wow.
And this is the rebuild.
Yeah, I do remember seeing some pretty dramatic, pictures and footage from that.
Yeah, that was a.
What year was that?
That's 2010.
Yeah.
And then the earthquake, and that was the result.
Wow.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was a lot more dramatic, and then this is the rebuild since then. So the 2018, so it was 2011 was the earthquake. You can see the rebuild really, but even down to the details of what the cathedral, looked like in 2010.
You know what? Oh yeah, when you were showing the rendering before, and I was like, oh, it's kind of sparse there. Now I know why. I didn't see before. yeah. It's literally a thing. The other thing, to your point is about the usefulness of download. So, this is a feature set we're working on so that people can do exactly what you've been describing. Bring down the data, the 3D models, the SketchUp, the terrains, and all the different layers, simply by selecting an area of land. So we actually just simply select an area of land and hit the download button from the UI. So in here, to be able to go to the tools and select a region, and then say bang, and sorry, I don't have it turned on at the moment, and it gives you all the entities, and you simply pick what you want to download, SketchUp models, terrain, and so forth for that area, and so we see that as being a very useful. Well, that's something I wanted to do. I mean, that was kind of like our original desire was I guess they call it clip. Yeah, clip.
Zip and ship.
Zip and ship or whatever. Yeah. We we've always wanted to been able to do that. We did the tiles just because that was what we had available to us. But that's something that's of interest to us too, because everything always falls between 2 to 4 tiles. When we. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of an issue, and we see that the whole geo-content marketplace has been really interesting because there's a lot of horizontal availability of data, but usually for project based you want everything from many layers for just a specific area of interest, and trying to consolidate and amalgamate that as developers, architects, and so forth is very difficult. So given that we've got that data essentially at our fingertips, through our database, the ability to go in and clip out, that piece of information is potentially very, very useful. So go here, select the region, select, give me all the buildings, and entities in there. We have to turn some on, of course. And that's the idea. Just you pick and choose, and then also the idea that there's a marketplace, because some of the content there may even be for sale. So if you're an engineering business and you spend a lot of time and money creating a high-resolution terrain or a set of data about some area, that this becomes also a place where you can offer it for sale as well as free.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's great.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'd like to, we'll trade a couple, emails. I'll give you a list of, things that we'd like to do, and then, I'd like to play around with it and put a couple layers in and just, concentrate on, we have some new data that was not on that website download that we just got in the last couple of weeks. So, maybe, some of them we even have some buildings that haven't even been built yet. They've been permitted, but they haven't been built. We built, Paul, our 3D consultant, has built from plans. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and to do that, I think you see that that's just bookmarks. You put them in, decide what you want to hide and show, and just make a bookmark with the proposal A, B, C, D, and bookmarks, and it'll apply you to that. And, so yes, sort of work on proposal, building proposal.
So yeah, let's get our thoughts together. Thanks so much, everyone, for sitting in on this call. It's an hour and 49 minutes. Pretty impressive.
Yeah. And it's good that we work late one night. It works better for the other side of the world.
Exactly.
Yes, we do appreciate it. Thank you.
And I know it's dark out there, so be careful and have a safe ride home on the train, Jeff. Are you on the train or are you driving?
No, I drive. Yeah, we're going to get snow tomorrow, but today's okay.
Okay. Did you see the news? I just saw in the news, Hawaii had a freak storm today. 191 mile an hour wind.
Oh, what?
191 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's not good.
No.
Yeah.
Especially when you're an island surrounded by water.
Yeah.
Oh, it's incredible. And then they got snow. They had like a blizzard in Maui.
Really?
Insane.
Yeah, they had snow.
Well, I know they're talking about that on the West Coast,
Seattle got snow.
Seattle was covered in snow.
Yeah, we've had no snow. It's been almost a snowless winter. The snowstorm tomorrow is still not. It's not even that big. It's going to be the second one we've had, and it's going to turn to rain. So we really haven't had anything.
Yeah, it's incredible weather. Crazy times. Anyway, okay, thanks so much. I'll do a follow-up email to everybody. Thank you, Mark.
Pleasure.
Okay, take care, everyone.
All right,
Mark,
bye-bye.
we'll be talking to you, and thank you, Kevin, for setting this up.
You got it. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Talk soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye now.